Hello guys, it's Ben Mario once again. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to insert data into the database using PHP MySQLI. In the previous lesson, we had learned how to connect to our database, and here we would try to learn how to insert data into the database. So what I'm going to be starting with is creating a database table that should contain a couple of information. So I'm going to come down here to the console and then use the create keyword here, the table keyword. So I'm telling SQL that I want to create a table, and I'm going to be calling the table posts. Now I'm using the posts. I'm going to be creating the post table here because I am going to be creating a couple of other lessons on how to work with posts. So here I'm going to give it an ID, and this should be int, and I want this to be the primary key. I want you to be my primary key, and I want you to auto increment. I want you to auto increment. So the next thing I'm going to do here is maybe the author of the post. So this should be the author of the post in lowercase. And it should be voucher. Remember, it doesn't matter if you're writing the data type in upper or lowercase, it doesn't matter at all. So I'm just going to write this in lowercase, and the author shouldn't be more than that. 25 characters. And I'm going to give this a title. So this there should be a title of our posts. This should also be voucher, and maybe it should be 150 characters long. So you can plan your database anyhow you want to plan it. So just applying it this way, and this should now be the content of our posts, and this should be voucher. And the content be voucher? No, I doubt. The content should just be text. So because we want it very long, so we are just gonna leave it text, and we don't want it to be null, so it's not null. So let's see, we are having an error here. So this is not supposed to be title. It's supposed to be text, and maybe a summary or status. I'm just going to start with status. So the status here is supposed to be maybe an int. No, not an int, a voucher, because we would like to store information like publish, draft, trash, and this is going to help us. This is going to help us a lot to know which post has been published, which post is still in draft, or which post has been moved to trash. And so this is gonna be 9 character long, and we're gonna give it the default, and we don't want it to be null, so not null, and we're gonna give it a default value. So the default should be what should it be? Should it be publish? Yeah, let it be published. So the default is published, and we're gonna move on to maybe when the post was published. So I'm just gonna call this created underscore on, and this is gonna be, oh my goodness, this is gonna be date time. So date time, and then we're gonna be giving it the default value, and the default value is going to be the current timestamp. I think I have issues with it. So dates, I think this should be capitalized. So date time, and I'm going to hit Control and enter on my keyboard to execute the query. Now if we click on this, we should have the table here created. So the next thing we're going to do is create a function that should insert data, that should take the responsibility of inserting data into this database. I'm going to go back to my code here, and I'm going to create a new file, and this file should be saved as functions. So functions.php. Now in our functions.php here, this is going to contain all the functions that we're going to be creating in this application. So what I start doing is write a comment that should give us information about that particular function. So I'm going to be writing a comment here that should give us information. So this function is responsible for making the posts. So we're going to do create a post. Has the responsibility of this function to create a post. This function might need some other stuff, so I'm going to be writing them later in this, but let's start with creating the function first. So we're going to be using the function keyword, and we don't need the public keyword, and the name of the function is going to be should I call it make post? So the name of the function is going to be make posts, and it's going to take a couple of informations here. So we are going to give it the informations we want it to have. So I'm going to divide my screen into two, and this. So dividing my screen into two here, and I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to close these two, so we can see everything clearly on the screen. So what are the informations we would want to give our post? So we're going to be passing them as parameters here. So you can see that this should be the informations we have here, and we want to store in our post table here. So I'm going to start with giving it the author. So the author here is going to be a string, and this is going to be our author. And the next data also is going to be string, and this should be the title of the post. And the next thing here is also the content too, is also going to be a string. So it's content, and I might also want to do other stuff to like formatting this, and then the status of these particular posts is do we need the status now? So maybe I might not want the status, I might not want the insert anything. So those already have default values, so maybe we would want to indent these properly on our screen, so that just for readability. So I'm going to indent this, so hit this, remove the space, and then hit this. So I just indented this, and this is for readability, so you can read what we have here on our post. So the next thing I'm going to do here is set the return value. So I'm going to tell PHP that my return value for this function is going to be a boolean, which will be true or false. And true or false just has to mean it's either going to return true if the function inserted data into the database successfully, or false if it didn't. So what I'm going to do here in the comment here now is write the information, tell my suite editor about the informations we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and use the at keyword and use the param keyword here. So the parameter for this function is, the first parameter for this function is a string, and this is the author. The author or the post. So this is the author of the post. So you can press Ctrl+C on your keyboard and Ctrl+V to duplicate that line, and then change the comments we have here. So the next one is going to be the title of the post, and then Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V to duplicate, and I'm going to change. This is the contents. Yep. The content of the post, and that's all we need here for now. And then the next thing I'm going to do here is use the @return keyword here. So this is going to let our editor know what's the return value of this particular function is. So what is the return value? The return value here is bool, and it's gonna be true or false. So it's I'm gonna swap it. So false or true if the post was inserted or created successfully. I'm going to break my comments so we can, for readability, so we can read the comments. So for readability, I'm going to break the comment. So back in our function now, I'm going to create a return keyword here. So this is going to be returning false by default. So by default, we're going to return false, and that's just going to satisfy the error we were having here. So if I comment this line out, you can see the error we're having here because it says this is expecting our function to return a type bool, but it returns void, it returns nothing. So I'm going to uncomment this line, and that solves the problem we have in there. And the next thing we're going to do here is we need our connection variable here to connect to our database when we want to make a post. We cannot access this variable outside of this function. So the only thing we're going to do here is we would have to include that particular variable. We have to include our connection file. So include our database connection file. So we're going to be including the database connection file here. So I'm going to use the include keyword. So include space, and then where do we have our database? We have our database here in the lib folder. So I'm going to use the lib keyword, or I'm just going to right click on it here like I told you initially, copy relative path, and then paste it here, and that should solve the problem we are having. So you can see I don't need to write all of those keywords myself one after the other, so you can see that it just solved the problem for me. Now the next thing I'm going to do here is prepare a statement, or we don't even need to prepare a statement, but I'm just going to prepare. Yeah, we do need to prepare a statement since we are going to be inserting stuff into the database. So we are going to prepare an SQL statement here. So what I'm going to do here is create a variable called stmt, which is just the short form of statement, and then we're going to be using our connection variable, which is an object, and we're going to be using a method called prepare. So this should help us prepare our statement, and our statement here is we want to insert information into the database. So this should be insert into what database? A database called posts. We want to insert into a database called post. So in parentheses here, and then the values also going to be in parentheses. So I like to write these in capital letters. So the values also in parentheses. So now the first thing I'm going to do here is give the information. Let's try to indent our code just to make it look good. So I'm just going to indent my code to make it look good. And so I'm going to indent this and then indent this. So this is going to contain the where we want to put the information, the columns where we want to put the information. So I'm going to start with the author. So lowercase author, and then this is going to be the title of the post, then the contents, and the status. No, we don't want the status, so that's all for now. And then on this line, what we're going to do here is just through a placeholder. So I'm just going to put question marks, 3 question marks, and these 3 question marks is going to represent the 3 variables we are going to be, the 3 informations we're going to be passing into our functions using the parameters we have here. So I'm going to go down to my code here and then bind parameters. So this is going to be bind. So I'm going to be binding parameters down here. So our statement stmt bind underscore param, and then this should be the data type. You can see that my text editor here tries as much as possible to give me information about that particular method we are calling. So you can see all of these are strings. So I'm going to do SSS 3 times, SS and S, and then I'm going to give it the informations it needs to bind to our query. So this is going to be the author, and this should be the title of the post, and this should be the content of the post, and then I'm going to end my statement here, and that's just all. So the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to execute the query. So I'm going to execute the query here on this line. We're going to be using the execute function here, the execute method instead, but I'm going to keep doing that in a conditional statement. So I'm going to call my stmt execute. So if it does execute successfully, I'm going to return true just to satisfy this. So we're going to satisfy this because we already told PHP that we're going to be returning true if the condition is true, or if that condition is false, we're going to return false. Now the next thing I'm going to do here is close the connection and statement. So we're going to close the connection and statement down here. So I'm going to start with closing the statement. So stmt close, that's a function, and then our connection variable close instead of clone. So that should close everything and we are fine. So you should always close everything after your query. You should always close the statement and the connection after your statement. So you can see here now that I have a big function that takes that responsibility of doing the stuff. So now let's go back into our index.html file here, and then at the top of this I'm going to require our functions. So we would like to use the functions here, so I'm going to require the functions here. And now the next thing I'm going to do down here is test our function just to see if the function really works or not. So I'm going to be calling the function. So what's the name of the function? The name of the function is makePost. So you can see that if I hover on makePost, it gives me information about that particular function. It says creates a post, and then these are the parameters it needs: the author of the post, the title of the post, the content of the post, and what have you. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it the information it needs. So the first information here should be the author of the post, and the author of the post is me, so I'm going to put in my name there, being Emmanuel. And then the title of this post is new PHP tutorial, and then the content should be whatever. So I'm just going to get some content from somewhere. I'm just going to get whatever content, some dummy. I'm just going to get the dummy contents and then paste the dummy contents in this. Oh my goodness, that's causing a lot of trouble here in my code. So let's see. I'm going to try pasting that again. Alright, so now we are good. So we have everything we need here now. So the next thing I'm going to do here is execute that query. So I'm going to refresh my browser here to execute the query, or press F5 on the keyboard to refresh the browser. So whichever one you do. So refreshing this, you can see it tells us notice host already defined. So we've already defined all of this stuff. So why it's asking us, why are you guys defining this stuff all over again? Now the reason why we get this is because in our production file, you can see that we defined the constants here. So when every time we call this file, it's always going to access why we are trying to define these all over again. So I'm going to cut this out of this. I'm going to cut the credentials out of this, and then I'm going to create a new file here, and I'm going to save this file as constants.php. And we're going to be leaving this constants.php inside the libs folder. So I'm going to hit save here to save this, and the next thing I'll do is start PHP and then paste the constants here. Now after pasting the constants here, let's go back to our index file, and I'm going to require our constants. So require our constants. So require. So this time around, I'm going to write everything myself so you can see it. So require libs constants.php, and then end it there. So this should get our constant for us on this page. So wherever we need our constants, we're going to get it. So I'm going to refresh, and now we're good. And the next thing I'm going to do is remove this line of code, because we don't need this line of code at all. And then we might want to also remove this statement, but I'm just going to leave it that way. So let's check our database to see if it did execute that query. So I'm going to refresh our browser here to see if the information got into our database. And you can see that the information got into our database twice, because we tried to do it twice. So we are good. So if we want information on the screen telling, I'm going to select all of these because I wanted, sorry. I'm supposed to click on this, check all, and then delete. So yes, I want to delete it. So what I want to do here is I want to call the function and then call it in a conditional statement. So I'm going to call it in a conditional statement. So if and then pass this in. So if this is true, I want to print out the message on the screen. So I want to echo out this message. I want to echo created successfully. So created successfully, or else I'm going to echo something went wrong when trying to create the post. So sorry. Something went wrong when trying to create the post. So this is going to be the message we receive on the screen. So something went wrong when trying to create the post. Now I'm going to go back to my code and then hit refresh again. Let's see. So we got created successfully, which means we have created a post successfully. So if we refresh this, we should see the post on the screen. So I'm just going to open this full so we can see we have the data published in our database successfully, and that's it. And everything is fine. So what are we doing next? We could create a simple user interface that should help us do this stuff, and then put the information using a form, and collecting the information from the users using a form, and everything is going to be fine. So thank you for watching this video. In a different lesson, we're going to be creating a form that should work with this function. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe, like, share, and don't forget to stay safe.